The House will come to order. Conference Committee reports.
Conference Committee report. This is a Hamilton motion. Conference Committee report on House File Number 1545, an act relating to agriculture. The report is addressed to the Honorable Kurt L. Doudt, Speaker of the House, the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate. We, the undersigned conferees for House File Number 1545, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by all 5 conferees on the part of the House and all 5 conferees on the part of the Senate. Hamilton moves that the report of the Conference Committee on House File Number 1545 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the author, Representative Hamilton, who will explain the report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'll just speak to the changes. We did increase the budget target by $4.9 million. Most of that went into the operating adjustments for the Department of Agriculture, Board of Animal Health, AURI. We took the governor's recs on industrial hemp and noxious weeds. There are 2 fees in here. Members, if you recall the first bill that we passed, we had an increase for the food certificate fee account. That's for exports, getting them cleared for exports, and then also a waste pesticide collection fee. The department needed additional dollars to help with the collection around that. We found compromise language around the verification of need. We agreed with the governor and the department to remove the earmarks out of the agri account except for directing the commissioner on 2 large ones for value added, and then also for good food and urban ag. There's 2 rider language in there. And Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield over to Chair Anderson to address the policy.
He will yield. Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Chair Hamilton. Really a couple of major changes from when the policy bill last left the House. One is an addition and one is really an omission of one thing that we had taken out. The addition is language pertaining to verification of need. And we finally agreed on language after a lot of negotiation and arrived at language that's suitable to all parties. And the other one was an omission that we took out the language and wording pertaining to the ag nuisance lawsuit. So with those 2 things, we think we have agreement and a bill that the governor can sign. So with that, thank you, Chair Hamilton, and I'll turn it back to him.
The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask for a roll call and ask for your support.
Roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Further discussion on the Conference Committee report. The member from Mauer, Representative Poppe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members, and I too would ask for adoption of this report. As we've been through this a couple of times now, when we first did the House bill, it was a very good bill. We started out in a good place. We had a bump in the road, and then now we come back together, and with this bill we did add some more money. So I thank the governor for agreeing to that, the commissioner for fighting for that, and for the opportunity to be able to have that. I think the additional dollars help us with noxious weeds. That was something that we had talked about. We need to have the noxious weed person to be able to help support the work that needs to be done there. We were able to put money into good food access, and for many people, they've probably heard about good food access. That was important for us to be able to have money in there for that. There are good things in this bill that came from the commissioner and from the governor, and certainly there was negotiation with the chair and those of us who are concerned about agriculture. So I'm glad that we were able to increase their admin to 6.5% to allow them to be able to do more. We have money for the Grow It Center, which is important for all of us, and that's in the urban area at the Metro State. I do want to mention one other thing. There is money in here and an increase for farm advocates. And I'm having passed around some information about Luann Kling, Luann Kling was the originator of the Farm Advocate Program, and she died this week. The story here is written about what she did and why she did it, and how in the 80s when there was the farm crisis, how she really took it upon herself to learn everything she could to be able to help fellow farmers and to really advocate and inspire people to be able to do that. So this information talks about her. She's the reason why Willie Nelson came and did Farm Aid, and we were able to then start the Farm Legal Action. And so she's just a tremendous asset for us in the state. She was a wonderful advocate for farmers and for everyone who faced some hardship when they were farming. So I want people to, when you have a few minutes tonight, to be able to read through that and to be able to just think about her and to honor her. And I appreciate that we did increase the farm advocate money in this bill, along with many, many other good things. There are certain things that aren't in here. There are certain things that, when we talk about pollinators, there's some that's there, some that isn't. There are things, but that's what happens when you have a compromise bill. So I very much appreciate that we had the opportunity to do a number of things, a number of good things in this bill. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion on the Conference Committee report. The member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and would Representative Hamilton yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Hamilton, you had mentioned a couple of value-added projects, and I see looking in the bill, it has like on page 9, the commissioner may use funds appropriated for 2 value-added grants per year of up to $1 million. Is that the provision that you were talking about?
Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hansen, yes, it is.
Representative Hansen.
And Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hamilton, if you yield for another question.
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Hamilton, is that the shrimp provisions that we were hearing in the committee? Is this designed to be where the shrimp company would be able to apply for those grants?
The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we would strongly encourage the commissioner to take a look at that. There's also a few proposals out there with processing for dairy and swine.
Representative Hansen.
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. And one more question, if Representative Hamilton.
He will yield. Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Hamilton, on a different subject, on the waste pesticide collection program. And in the committee, we had testimony that the makeup of the waste was changing from when the program originated, back when I was there years ago. So you have more non-ag products, but you still have ag products. And am I correct? Is it correct that the fee increase to cover the waste pesticide program, to make it work, is only on the non-ag products, and then that fee increase will be paying the cost of both non-ag products and agricultural products?
Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Hansen, we still have a fee on ag products as well. When we were visiting with the department, just like I believe you had said, that it is changing as far as a lot more non-ag products. And so that's where a strong need was. And that's why we increased the fee on non-ag products, but there is still a fee on ag products as well.
And
Representative Hansen.
Mr. Speaker, and I think then, Representative Hamilton, the fee on the ag products is $50, and the fee on the non-ag products will now be $125. So if Monsanto wants to sell Roundup in the state, if they sell Roundup in a container that I would buy at the hardware store, for them to sell that in the state, it would be $125 a year, just one-time payment for no matter how much they sold. And for if they were selling Roundup that would be applied on Roundup ready crops, they would pay $50 a year because there's no increase to cover if that Roundup later on became a waste pesticide. If you would yield.
He will yield. Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Hansen. It's $50 for ag products, and it's increased to $125 for non-ag products.
Representative Hansen.
Okay, so that was correct. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the conference committee report? The member from Rice, Representative Bly.
I got my cord caught here just a second. Sorry about that. Thank you, Speaker. Anyway, so I wanted to just speak a minute about something that happened in the course of conversation about this bill. And I think there were some ag groups that have sort of passed judgment on the governor, saying that this was the worst governor for ag in history. And I take great umbrage with that. I think if you look at the last couple ag bills and the proposals the governor has made for ag, he's put more money in for ag improvements than this bill originally had. So I take some umbrage with that. But also, I think the governor has made it very clear he's concerned about water quality. He's concerned about the overuse of pesticides and other poisons that may affect our soil and water. And I think that, unfortunately, that does impinge upon some of the uses that farmers may have. You know, the whole, although this is not in this bill, the whole issue over the buffers where, again, the governor's concern is the water quality, which affects all of us. I think we've commented a little bit about on the pesticide waste fee and how I think the governor's impetus was, let's make sure that we're all together in on this. And, you know, I don't know why the increase is only on the non-ag, but I think, again, the governor's instincts are, let's make sure that all Minnesotans come together, whether you're farming or whether you're not farming, and let's make sure that we are using chemicals wisely. Let's make sure that we are looking out for pollinators. Let's make sure that, because that's part of our whole ag system. And I take umbrage to the fact that these ag groups, perhaps motivated by the chemical companies, I don't know, but I think it's disgraceful and shameful that they would do that, because this governor has not been anti-ag. He's been a strong advocate. He understands that agriculture is an important part of our economy and a strong part of our economy, and I support him in that. And so I just wanted to make that clear that although there have been many improvements to this bill, I find what happened a problem for me. So thank you for giving me a few moments to speak to that.
Further discussion on the conference committee report. Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on adoption of the conference committee report. The clerk will close the roll. There being 123 ayes and 5 nays, the motion prevails, and the clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, House File Number 1545, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Any further discussion? The member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thanks again, Mr. Speaker. Just a quick note that farmers want to be treated fairly. They want to do things the right way, and those things are important. And one thing was added in the language of the bill that when we go through our certification and testing process, there's going to be an addition in those testing manuals that calls for guidance to work on the impacts of insecticides and pollinators. So there is going to be an emphasis placed on that as going forward when farmers go through that testing process. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I would encourage a green vote.
Any further discussion on repassage? The member from Nicollet, Representative Johnson C.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I suggest that we vote yes on this bill. This is a good farm bill, and I'm really pleased to see the additional funds. I believe it's about $5 million that goes to agriculture. It's an investment by the state of Minnesota, and what I argue is our most important industry. Specifically, I'd like to mention just a few things. One is I'm glad to see the staff at the Department of Agriculture to deal with noxious weeds. I'm particularly concerned about the invasion of Palmer amaranth, and it does require a statewide concern. That will give the department the opportunity to coordinate the efforts that will be funding for counties, that will give us a chance to fight that. And we got to do that, because if that reinvades, we've got to be able to respond quickly to that. I also like the fact that there is flexibility in the Agri program. I think the Department of Agriculture has shown over the last several years they use that well. And let's remember, those programs, those funds are used to help young farmers expand some small livestock operations. It really gives some farmers a chance at expanding in the industry. And it also sets up some value-added agriculture. I think that's really a secret to making sure that agriculture is not only on the farm, but we extend it throughout rural Minnesota. And that's just a basic rural economic development tool that is very valuable. The compromise on farmer-lender mediation was absolutely critical, and that's why the policy has to be in this bill, because we have to extend the date for the farmer-lender mediation program. This is essential to securing financial stability for farmers in a time of need. The prices are low, we know that. We've got to make sure we've got a strong farmer-lender mediation program, and having that in the bill is really essential, and so I'm glad it's in there. And finally, I'd just like to say that, you know, the Ag bill is a bill, in the Ag Committee, we take pride in doing things in a bipartisan way. And here, this is the first spending bill coming off the floor. And we've got a bipartisan support for this bill. I think you saw that in the adoption. I hope we do in the passage. And let this be as a symbol for us in the next couple of days. Let's work together. We've got a bunch of spending bills to go forward. And we've got to pass those spending bills. We've got to spend a tax bill, and we've got to pass a tax bill, and we've got to pass a bonding bill. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, and we are going to absolutely have to work together to do that. And so let's use this as a symbol going forward. I'd also like to just suggest that I think, whether it be both sides of the aisle, that I think rural Minnesota will really benefit if we can finish by the end of on Monday. Because when we all scatter back to the countryside, I think we lose a little bit of our oomph here. And so I want to encourage a quick end of session. Let's use the Ag bill to start us on the way. Thank you very much.
The member from St. Louis, Representative Murphy M.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Johnson, I really appreciate what you just said. And for the second time now, you've been talking about the director of noxious weeds. And I hate noxious weeds. And I think that might be a little dangerous job, to work with noxious weeds all the time. And yesterday, Representative Garofalo told us about this plan that the Democrats were having to have a robot work in the fields. And so couldn't the robot be doing something with those noxious weeds? Wouldn't that be a good idea? Mr. Speaker, would Representative Johnson yield?
He will yield. Representative Johnson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Murphy, you're right on with that. And that's what that robot is designed to do. And the idea is this robot, picture a robot. The solar panels are not on the robot itself. Picture a solar panel in a pasture. Okay, and I think it's really, the research is focused on dealing with weeds in pastures. Okay, so you can picture a robot being able to operate very well in that space. And the robot would be able to hook onto that solar panel, repower itself, and go out and take care of those weeds in that pasture, and kind of work on its own. And this is research that would be in the LCCMR bill. I think it's a good idea. I agree with you, Representative Murphy.
Representative Murphy M.
I think we're on to something.
I think so too. The member from Hennepin, Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to let this bill pass without also indicating that I think there's something pretty historic in the bill here, and that is actual funding for urban agriculture, which is redefined in the bill to include urban youth agriculture education or urban agriculture community development. And since I've told people about this bill since it's been online today, I've gotten lots of calls from folks, and I just wanted to let Representative Hamilton know. And again, as this has been structured and as we've talked about it, it isn't just metro urban folks. It's people who are in areas where there are communities throughout the state, and I know that's the commitment that's is the understanding of urban agriculture here too. So I just want to say this is a really important part of this bill, and I'm glad that we're going forward with it. Thank you.
The member from Dakota, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And following up on Representative Clark, I think this is one of the times where there has been dollars for urban agriculture. However, I think, in the years I've been here, often the discussion and the framing that occurs is that agriculture is only in the countryside, and that the debate is always about rural, when the authority of the agency is more than just rural. The authority of the agency includes dealing with invasive species such as emerald ash borer. And I think it's been a bipartisan challenge to look at the industries or the uses or the authorities that are not only cows, corn, and rural communities. I think that we at the legislature get stuck in doing what we've always done. And so I think this bill unfortunately continues that. I asked the question about value-added shrimp. That could be a deed project. I don't see Representative Mahoney here. Economic development puts grants throughout the state. But we haven't been able, as a legislature, as the elected representatives of the entire state, to put money into emerald ash borer, which is a public purpose, although we did, as a legislature, deal with Dutch elm disease back in the 70s with the Department of Agriculture. So if we are not going to fund programs because the frame or the understanding of the legislature is that the purpose of the agency is only rural or rural economic development, then maybe we should move some of the authorities somewhere else. Maybe the invasives emergence should not be in the Department of Agriculture, but should be in another agency. Because bipartisanly, we talk about working together, and we talk about having the Department of Ag funding bill be supported. Representative Bly talked about the farm groups working together. Often the discussion is about conformity, of everybody must be working together instead of diversity, of diverse thoughts and a diverse background and diverse tasks that are within the authority of the agency that always seem to slip out and never get funded. And I know there's been LCCMR and other fundings, but I'm talking programs. So that's one reason I'm going to vote against this. Secondly, we don't seem to delve into pesticides except at a very superficial level. When I saw the pesticide lobbyists walking in the hallways today, they had huge grins on their faces. They were very happy. The pollinator protection account was not included, although the governor wanted it to be. Usually governors get what they want, so it appears the trade was the pollinator protection account for the nuisance provisions. I'm hopeful that there still could be some way of dealing with pollinator protection that isn't just habitat, because by the way, 4 years ago we already did that. We already made sure that we were going to be using state properties for habitat. So I know it's late, it's in the dark of night, people want to move on, and I know that there will be near unanimity on this. But as representatives, we are here to represent our districts, and sometimes it's needed that we be here to represent a different approach or a different idea or a different way of looking at something. And that's what I'm going to do today.
Any further discussion? The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I want to start off by thanking Representative Murphy. I loved your prayer this morning, just like every year when you do that. So thank you so much. And I just wanted to say that publicly. You know, farmers do a great job providing the consumer with a safe, wholesome, delicious product at affordable price. You know, but we need to continue doing a good job educating the consumer on who we are, what we do, and why. You know, we have this battle going on internally a lot of times: food versus fuel, urban versus rural, GMO versus organic, large versus small, conventional versus traditional. You know, it's time that we all come together. And I want to say thank you to Representative Karen Clark. You opened my eyes to urban agriculture. And by doing so, I went over there and I toured the greenhouse at Metro State. Representative Sheldon Johnson, thank you for that as well. And you're reaching out to the youth within the cities, and they want to learn more about agriculture. It's a great way to bring everybody together. I learned a great deal through your guidance and your leadership, and I thank you for that. I've grown as a person and as a legislator. And like I've said before, as committee chair, when it comes to testifiers, I say I have one rule for testifiers. Please, we will not tear down one segment of agriculture trying to promote another. We're all in this together. And I want to continue doing that. Everybody, when it comes to ag, like I said, it's an honorable, noble profession. And we want to continue doing what we can to bring people together and make changes as they're necessary. So I want to thank staff. You guys are fantastic, and everybody, all the conferees as well. With that, I ask for your support. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 124 ayes and 5 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. This is the Smith Motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file, herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments to concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House File Number 1538, an act relating to real property. The message is signed Cal R. Ludeman, Secretary of the Senate. Smith moves that the House concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 1538 and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Senate.
I recognize the author, Representative Smith, who will explain the Senate amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill updates the Common Interest Community Law. When this bill was in this body, it received 108 votes. I would like to thank the co-authors, especially Representative Dean and Nelson. This bill in the Senate, the lower body down the hall, received 61 votes. The differences in the bill are principally the attorney's fees that were in the House bill are taken out in the Senate, and also the effective date, which was 10 years prior in the House, is only going forward in the bill before us. I feel this is a fair compromise. I appreciate working with the Senate and coming to a good conclusion, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Any discussion on the Senate amendments? The member from Hennepin, Representative Dean R.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And let me start by commending Representative Smith for his work on this bill. It hasn't been an easy path to get where we are. And although I was a no vote when it passed out of this body, I believe with these changes that have been implemented on the Senate side, this is something that I can support. And I ask all members to support this. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the Senate amendments? There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to concur with the Senate amendments say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and the clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by Senate.
Third reading, House File Number 1538, as amended by the Senate.
Third reading as amended by the Senate. Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk, my apologies, the member from Ramsey, Representative Lesh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know that this bill has come a long way, Representative Smith, and you've worked hard on it. I will still be a red vote on this because I think even though the amendments that were made by the Senate, I think, were substantial, I cannot imagine a single person on that side of the aisle agreeing to force a corporation to get their members to agree to proceed with a lawsuit against a corporation. Your guys' corporations are suing each other all the time. And if you say they have to go into an agreement to go in on that lawsuit, you would never agree to it. But for some reason, when it comes to average Minnesotans, homeowners, you think it's a good idea. Now, I will point out to this, that Representative Smith, you had some mayors of some cities come in and say, this is the reason why condos are not getting built. And if we have a spike in condos getting built after this, I'll eat crow. Mark my words, I'll eat crow, okay? But I don't think that's what's going to happen. And that's why I think all we did is restrict the average Minnesotan's access to justice when all of a sudden they find out they bought a lemon. So it caused me concerns. I still want to commend you, Representative Smith, for trying to find a compromise on this, but it hasn't gone far enough for me, so I'll still be a red vote. Thank you, members.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 122 ayes and 7 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by Senate and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until, 11 a.m. Sunday, May 21st, 2017.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday, May 21st, 2017. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails. Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday, May 21st, 2017.